I got to get my infrastructure in order here just for a second. And then I'm going to set my timer to make sure I don't bore you people to death. And then, so I first have to apologize. I didn't memorize this thing, even though it's my story. And so I may have to check my notes once in a while. So I'm not going to be maybe as polished as one of those professional speakers, but I'm just going to be myself as best I can. So first, thank you for having me here today. And I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to my wife, Teresa, whose support has been unwavering through all of my ups and downs. I want to thank my two wonderful kids, Chloe, who was absolutely not going to miss school to see her dad in something like this, and I respected that a lot because it's certainly not anything I would have done. And then, which you guys will hear about in just a second, actually. And my son Max, who just started high school, but he was willing to miss French to be here. So I'm glad that you're here. And I also want to my parents, Janie and Alton Ruback, who have always believed in me, even when I wasn't always sure I believed in myself. Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge a few of my coworkers that are here, and obviously my friends and my family who've been on this journey with me. Special thanks to Alex Epstein and Jay and the Jewish Business Leaders Program for giving me this opportunity. It's a privilege and honor to stand here to tell my story. So before I begin, I should mention I have a couple of cousins sitting at my table with me who have brought a buzzer with them. And if there's any exaggeration or hyperbole here, they've said that they are going to buzz me. And so my goal is to get right up to the line, or just kind of right there, without actually getting buzzed. And so, let me start by telling you. I forgot the picture of my family. Hold on, the clicker's not working. I'll click it this way. There's my family. So my current role, so right now I am, going on 8 years. I'm the CEO of Flood Communications. As Alex said some of this before, we're the largest broadcasting company in Nebraska. A total of 26 radio and TV stations, focusing on radio, TV, digital, and Hispanic as our focus. We have just over 200 full and part-time employees that make up Flood Communications. We have 11 offices all throughout Nebraska, which I'll show you guys a map here a little bit later on in the presentation. News Channel Nebraska, Telemundo Nebraska, and a digital ad agency are three of the main components of what we do. And every single month, we help manage and operate about 2,500 active clients, helping them with their marketing and advertising strategies. And then, a lot of folks here, you may not even have heard of us just because we focus on Hispanic audiences and we focus on greater Nebraska. But at scale, we have more social media followers than any other media assets in Nebraska. So that's where I am now. So let me tell you a little bit about where I am today. So I'll start back in high school. Okay, I'm not going to bore the crap out of you about all of this. But so in high school, I wasn't exactly a straight A student, but my folks always said, "Hey, just get over a 3.0 GPA, right? That's kind of the line that you need to do to get into college, or at least the college that I was going to get into, and kind of go from there." And so I graduated high school with a 3.04 GPA, and so it was kind of just enough, right? Just enough to get into college, and so I was pretty immature, right? I think I went through puberty like around sophomore year in high school. So like by the time I graduated, I still was like in a freshman mindset. But here I am ready for college, and really the only thing that I thought about related to college, I knew it was going to be fun, but there wasn't a rule about going to class. And I was like fixated on this like freedom that if I didn't want to go to class, I didn't have to go to class, right? I'm not sure it was the right thing to do, but that was where my head was. And so then, of course, I get in and I end up at Arizona State University. And this place is magical in every possible way for a freshman, in every possible way to me. Maybe to my parents and the school itself it wasn't, but for me it was great, and everything you can think about it. And so then little Andy from Omaha is going down to Arizona State University, and so I'm in school. And I start going to school, and those are my grades my first semester. I got 1 B and 3 Fs. And so you're probably wondering, you may not be wondering, but I'm going to tell you, what'd you get the B in? I got the B in the class that you didn't have to show up for, which was my communications class. And so here I am with a B and 3 Fs. I love college. Well, I love all college except for the part of having to be responsible about my grades. And so this was maybe a pretty hard part of my life. My folks said, hey, you can go back. You can go back to school if you want. But it's your decision. And so I decided to not go back to Arizona State for my second semester as much as I wanted to. And so then you have kind of all those feelings that go with that. Like, gosh, I went away to school and now I've decided to come back. And so you have kind of that embarrassment. You have there's just a lot of feelings around that. And then I said, okay, there'll be a few times in my life where I had to get serious about something. And I said, okay, I moved back home to my parents' basement right after 1 semester of school, and I went to UNO. And so I'm like, okay, Andy, let's kind of see if you can actually do this thing, right? So then I went to UNO for a semester, and I got all A's and a B+. So it was I ended up with a 3.825 GPA. So combined, right? Here's the best part about transferring schools. Only credits transfer, GPA doesn't. So the one class came from ASU and combined with UNO, and so I'm ready to roll. And so after that, I moved down to Lincoln, and then I was in Lincoln for the next 3.5 years, and it was awesome. And it was kind of a hybrid between UNO and Arizona State, right? That's kind of how I had a really good time there. But here was the problem. The problem is I had been now in school for 4.5 years. I was only 2/3 of the way towards graduating. And so now this is kind of another part of my life. A lot of my 4.5 years, that's kind of time to get done. And, at this point, a lot of my friends were kind of moving on from school, kind of getting to the next part of their life. And here I am, a year and a half away from, even being done with that. And so I said, okay, it's time to go back. It's time to go back to Omaha, move back in with my parents, and get serious about college and finish. I had no idea what I was going to do after college, but I just felt it was it was kind of time to do that. And so I moved back to my parents' house, and I did 56 credit hours in 12 months. So this was before they have these incredible programs where you can do it in a year. I was a traditional student, so I was in school a lot. But I finished up. I graduated, but the thing I wanted to also share is that I always worked. I started working when I was in 7th grade, and I was in the daycare center down the hall here. It was my first job. I worked as a camp counselor. I worked at this is going to be logo soup a little bit. I worked at Carlos O'Kelly's. I worked at Radio Shack. I worked at True Green Chemlawn. When I came back from Arizona State, I worked at the dollar store. Quick story about the dollar store. So, I had to get a job immediately, right? I just left school. I had to get a quick job. And hold on, let me check my time. I'm doing okay. And so at the dollar store, they have all kinds of products. And this was like an OG dollar store, right? This is kind of back 30 years ago, basically. But they used to sell for $1 these Best of Mozart CDs. And they had tons of them. And for those of you that were in the CD era, you knew that you could take any CD you wanted to Homer's, and if it was Pearl Jam, they'd pay you $10. But literally, they wanted that business alive, so they would pay you $3 or $4 just for anything in their inventory. And so I was making more money buying CDs from the dollar store and selling them at Homer's. I didn't work there that long, but I had a good exercise in cost of goods sold at the time. Right. And so, but I will tell you, the other, I kind of got serious in college, and I started working as a teller at First National Bank, and that turned out to be a really, really smart job for me to have. When you go through all this training to be a teller and kind of manage money and do all those things for clients, you understand how money moves through the banking system. And it's not something, it's not something you learn every day. It's kind of an on-the-job training. And it helped me a lot more when I had when I owned my first business. And so now I'm done with college. It's time for me to get a job. And so I applied for, I basically put 3 applications in. One, I got hired at First Data, kind of your regular college graduate first job. My mom helped me get that. And then the other 2 interviews I had were at radio stations. And it's funny, it was a friend of my mom and my uncle, my great uncle was in that business, and they got me lined up with a couple of interviews at 2 different radio groups. But I was too naive to even know how they made money at a radio station. It just kind of sounded fun. And so I literally found out at the interview that this was going to be a sales job. Oh, okay, that sounds good. And so I was just that naive. I was just kind of that age and kind of going through that process. And so I got 2 job offers. One was a 6-month guarantee at $2,500 a month. The other was a 6-month guarantee at $1,500 a month. I took the one of the guarantee that was $1,500 a month because I trusted the person that was hiring me more. And so here I am. I'm working at 50th and Underwood in the KFAB building. Big radio stations there: KGOR, Cat 103, KFAB. Big, right now it's iHeart, but at the time it was Clear Channel Media. And so I get my first account list, and my account list had really been worked over. Right, the veteran rep had already done the work on it, and then I get the account list, and I would call it I know enough to be dangerous now. I would call it a junk account list, right? Nothing was a current client. It was kind of sink or swim. And so I was looking at the account list. So it was, I put the yellow pages up there because basically my account list turned into the yellow pages. Kind of go figure this out, right? Go prospect on your own and do all those things. But there was an account on my list. I started calling some of those accounts, and one of the accounts was Winnevegas Casino in Sloan, Iowa, if anybody knows that casino up there. And I called them and I said, "Hi, my name is Andy. Would you like to advertise on the radio?" And they're like, "Actually, yes. We do all these concerts, and no one from your radio group has been up here in a while to meet us, kind of find out what we wanted, what was going on." I said, "I don't have anything to do tomorrow." I drove up the next day. I was there at 9 a.m. and during the meeting, my beeper's going off, and I kept all these on my belt right here. I had a beeper and a cell phone. That was hot stuff then. And so I get done with that, and I'm checking the beeper. I'm checking my voicemail, and I call back. It's my manager, like pounding me. I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" I'm in the parking lot before I hit the road back to Omaha. I said, "I'm fine. How are you?" She goes, "Where are you?" I go, I'm in Sloan, Iowa. And she goes, "What?" She goes, "You missed the sales meeting this morning." And I didn't know where you were. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. But what were you doing up there? I said, "Well, there was a client that wanted to see me." And she goes, "Well, okay." And I said, "Well, I got a big sale from this client." And it was like a $10,000 sale for the next 90 days, which that's a good sale today, right? And I drove back, and that was really the start of my sales career. And I got really, really, really good at understanding audience and writing really radio scripts for clients to try to connect to people. And so I'll talk a little bit about what my superpowers are, but one of my superpowers is as a marketer. And I found that out really early. You come up with creative ideas, you write something and try to get a business person or someone that's in charge of their marketing to line it up to an audience. And I got really, really good at that. And so I talked about earlier when I was in college, I think the world kind of passed me by, and all of a sudden I found this career, and I gave everything to it. 24/7, 365, and for me it was like a continuation of college, right? You just have to work during the day, make money for yourself, and at nights and at lunches you're with clients and you're out, having a good time. And the perks of working at a radio station, the concert part of it's incredible. I remember early in my career, UNO hockey started playing at the old Civic Auditorium, if you guys remember where that started. And one of our radio stations had a little sponsorship thing there where they have clients. And one of the managers said, hey, you could bring your friends, you could bring clients to this thing. And I'm like, okay, we'll kind of see what this is. I think my cousins probably came with me a couple of times. So we walk in underneath the bleachers at the Civic Auditorium, and there's this like massive prime rib buffet from Misty's in Lincoln there. Mind you, I'm like 23 years old at the time. And then it's like there's beer and there's liquor, and it doesn't cost you anything because it's part of work. Right, and so like I'm like this is the business for me, and so for me it was just like this great continuation of having fun, and I combined it with what I was doing at work, and so by my second year in the radio business, I was probably one of the top most successful account executives in probably Nebraska, certainly in Omaha. And at the young, ripe age of 25, they probably made a mistake, but it was to my benefit. They promoted me to be the general sales manager in charge of some major assets. And so here I am going from, skating by in college to, having a series of employees that are, in many cases, twice my age and running major, radio stations, KGOR, Cat 103, KFAB, and that was at a really young age. And right around that time is when I met Teresa. And so, of course, I was at a client party at Memorial Park, 4th of July, right? Everybody that lives around the park has those parties because they do the fireworks and, some band like either the Pointer Sisters or the Village People are playing. I think this year they had Roger Daltrey, actually, which was pretty good. So we met at the party, and I think it was a client party for me, and I think she really fell in love with me because I was told to bring a dessert to the party. Everybody was bringing, some people brought potato salad. I was told to bring a dessert, and so I brought a box of ho-hos to the party. I mean, who doesn't want a ho-ho, right? It's a dessert of legends. And so we met at that event, and right after that, a few months later, we're starting to get more serious in our relationship, and I said, hey, honey, I think I want to start my own business. And so I was in this really successful spot. And then I cashed in my savings, I cashed in my 401k, I did all those things, and some partners and I started a newspaper called the City Weekly newspaper. And so this was, hold on, there we go, let me get to my spot real quick. So this was a really interesting exercise. And so the humility that happened to me going from, having a loft in the old market and, really being successful at a very young age to not getting a paycheck for weeks at a time, being in a brand new, a serious relationship with, who's now my wife at the time, that was tough. But she stuck with me, and we had a lot of meals at her mom's house, which was great. And the City Weekly ended up being a really successful business venture. We started off with multiple partners, just me and one partner at the end. And we sold the business in April of 2007. So if you kind of go back to April of 2007, just a little bit later in the year, it was a pretty bad economy that kind of struck all of us. And I will tell you, it was 100% luck, zero smarts at our timing, but we got out of the business, and now I'm 30 years old, having started a business, sold a business, but I don't have a job, right? It's kind of the first time since I had been 7th grade that I hadn't had a job, and so I wanted to get back into radio, and so that's what I did. I went to work for a company called NRG Media, and they had just bought a whole bunch of radio stations in Lincoln, Nebraska. So then I commuted for the next 4 years. And that turned out, and I was to be a 30-year-old guy as the general manager of a major media operation, I certainly was younger than my peers at that point, but we had a really nice run. We doubled profits of the business in about 3 years, and I really kind of, I would say I really kind of think I found my calling running media operations kind of at scale. And that was great, and did that for a few years and commuted. I remember Max was born, and this was in 2008. I started there. Max was born in 2009, and I just, some of it was a blur because he started his life in the NICU. So I remember like driving to Lincoln and leaving early and going to the NICU, and again, I wouldn't change anything out, but it did give me an interesting perspective on being, at the time, you're running a media operation in Lincoln. You're kind of in the center of that community too. And so I really had the fortune of understanding that community really well. And so then the company said, hey, we want to bring you to Omaha to run the Omaha business unit for us. And so then I came to Omaha to run NRG Media Omaha, Suite 98, 1620 The Zone, 50th and Dodge, pretty big operation there too. And that was fun. That's where I got into the live event business and was back to my entrepreneurial spirits. And I'm not much of a star chaser or anything like that, but I've probably produced over 50 concerts in my career, and I had a pretty good time doing it. So that's me with Salt and Pepper. That's me with Kenny Rogers. May he rest in peace. We did his Christmas show. This was back in 2016 or 2017. And then there's not many pictures on the planet where the particular star of the picture is the second prettiest lady in the picture, but that's this one. Right? So I had the opportunity to do some really fun things in the radio business, and so now I want to kind of transition to Flood Communications and where we are and what we're doing now. And I put the title of this next section here. It's called I've chosen my partners well, right? So starting, of course, with Teresa, the first partner I chose, and the second partner, we had to choose each other, was Mike Flood. And most people don't know this. Mike and I have known each other for almost 30 years. So when I was running around during my extended time in Lincoln, Mike was in law school, and we had friends in common. And so we've known each other for a long, long time. And when he was in Norfolk making his bones, as kind of around the same age, he's kind of the young guy in Greater Nebraska doing big things in the media business. I was making kind of my bones and reputation here in Omaha. And after he got out of the legislature, he started expanding his media business. And even at the time when I was in Lincoln, his sister-in-law worked for me for the whole time I was in Lincoln. And so the business, his business, was getting to the point where, and Mike's super entrepreneurial, but it was getting to the point where it needed some help. It needed it just needed more attention because of where it was headed and where it was going. And we didn't know this at the time, but we figured it out later. Mike's superpower is understanding audience and connecting news, content, and personalities to those audiences. I understand that part of the business, being in it for as long as I have, but it's not my superpower. My superpower is in sales and marketing. He understands sales and marketing, right? But that was my superpower. I understand the content side, which was his superpower, and so we came together in 2017 and decided to. He asked me to come join him as his business partner and as CEO of the company, and so that's what we did. And so that's where kind of I got going with Flood Communications. Let's see. Also, one of the things that allowed me to do this, right? Because when you start a business and go into something like this and you're taking some risk, I was different than the first time. I was very lucky because a lot of people don't know this. Teresa, for many, many years, ran a super successful company. And she's a very talented businesswoman in her own right. And it kind of allowed me to take on this venture with Mike. At the time we had, a couple of kids, and that's really, really hard to make some of those transitions. And so here are the current radio station assets of Flood Communications. And it started out just with Northeast Nebraska and Omaha and Southeast Nebraska. And then, I don't know if can you guys see my mouse or no? I don't know if you can. Is there a mouse up there? No. Everything else, since 2019, we bought Sidney, Nebraska, which is out here in the Panhandle. Then we went back and bought 5 radio stations in Grand Island, Kearney, and Hastings. Then we bought a station in Kimball, Nebraska, which is right here. Then last year we bought Gordon and Valentine, which is this area up there. And what makes it interesting, what we do, and what makes it different, and here's kind of the secret sauce of Flood Communications, is the newspaper business at scale, whether small towns or big communities, the best days are far behind it. And you're talking to a person that reads 5 newspapers a day, and I'm a lover of journalism, but that business has absolutely collapsed. And so our strategy was, how can we be the center of these communities? And so in many cases, we hired newspaper reporters, trained them with video cameras, put websites and used social media and stacked those things on top of radio stations. And so now, instead of the newspaper being the center of the community, the radio station has become the center of the community. And we've now done this so many times at so much scale, we were able to start a business called News Channel Nebraska. And News Channel Nebraska is really Greater Nebraska's news network. Most people around here, a lot of people don't know unless you're watching Supernovas volleyball or high school sports or things like that, because our focus really isn't Omaha at all. It's Greater Nebraska, but we were able to do so much kind of local news and content and training multimedia journalists in these small towns. We really put a lot of scale together. And so now we're the largest TV network in the state. We're in 500,000 homes. We have over 500,000 followers on social media. And so News Channel Nebraska is a news department, but it's also a TV network. And as I said before, we're doing news, we're doing sports. And so one of the things we talk about at Flood Communications is serving the underserved. And so this is kind of audience one, is your rural community that now is getting super served, because before we came along, there wasn't really anything at scale that connected Greater Nebraska with telling stories of themselves to each other. The other underserved audience in Nebraska is the Hispanic audience. And so we own 3 Telemundo affiliates. So we own Telemundo TV in Omaha, we own Telemundo TV in Sioux City region, and in the Lincoln Grand Island region. And so that's the other underserved audience. And until we came around, there had never been a full-scale Hispanic news department. Most people don't know that there's 300,000 Hispanics in Nebraska right now, and we're really the only ones that service them at scale. We paired the TV stations. We own Radio Lobo in Omaha, which is a humongous radio station, and then we own the big Spanish station in Grand Island. So we really kind of go from North Platte all the way into Iowa in both radio and in TV. I think it's Janet, who's one of our senior vice presidents over there, she'll certainly correct me, but I think OPS right now is somewhere between 40 and 45% Hispanic, K through 12. I mean, so that population trend is going up, and we were lucky to be kind of on the front side of that. And many businesses, whether you're OPPD or a car dealership or whoever that wants a strategy to reach the Hispanic audience, we've really been able, Nebraska Furniture Mart, thank you. We've really been able to make a really mature solution for that audience. And so we solved 2 problems at scale. We solved, how do we reach Greater Nebraska? How do you reach the Hispanic audience? And so thinking about serving the underserved in rural communities, we also found that all these clients in these communities needed to have more, let's call it modern or more contemporary advertising techniques that they could use, right? Kind of before we came around to do this kind of small and medium-sized business focus, businesses were forced to maybe use large ad agencies out of Omaha or Lincoln or Denver or Chicago or whatever. And what we found is that, boy, if we really started super serving some of these smaller communities and smaller advertisers in these communities at a price that was affordable for them, we have almost 40 salespeople around the company. And if you're in a small town, it's like religion to do business with other people in those small towns. And so for us, we basically put together a digital ad agency that was able to serve all of these small town advertisers, right? And so if someone needed a new website, if someone needed to have graphics done, you know those, when you're shopping and those ads that follow you around or you think your phone is listening to you, we do all of that, right? we do all of that. And here's the interesting part. We've done such a nice job in counties that have less than 10,000 people in many cases. There's a type of hospital called a critical access hospital. These are rural hospitals, and primarily they're funded through Medicare. And all of this is secondary because a lot of these hospitals became our clients, right? We were doing video work for them and graphic work for them in the towns that we're in. And, long story short, we started learning a lot about this business and basically built a whole separate company called Critical Marketing. And it's a marketing agency specializing in marketing for critical access hospitals. The secret sauce here is almost no one is out there supporting rural, right? And here we are kind of running towards it. Federal law is difficult but clear, and after about a year of research and time, we understand how these hospitals can get reimbursed from Medicare for very, very specific marketing techniques. And so we've built an entire company, which is called Critical Marketing, around this effort. And sitting here today, we have clients in 3 different states, and this is a very, 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 very rapidly growing part of our business. And it's really been fun for me and others in our business, I don't know if others, but for me to kind of have, we're in a scaled business, right? And now we have what I would call something on the startup level within the business. And it is really, for me, it's really been invigorating to have something like this that we're able to work on. And so that is, in a pretty quick way, let me see if I don't think I missed anything. That's really where we're at now. And so one thing you'll see next to the Flood logo up here, you'll see the Inc. 5000 logo. This was big for us. In 2021, our company was honored with being an Inc. 5000, honored as an Inc. 5000 member. I saw it on the sleeve of your shirt, right? Another business. So if you've been part of the Inc. 5000, this is a really prideful thing because it means you're one of the 5,000 fastest growing businesses in the country. And we were the only media company in Nebraska, and we were the only broadcast company in the entire country that was able to achieve that honor. And that's really a big thing for us. I mentioned just a second ago how I had a unique perspective working in Lincoln. I also have a unique perspective understanding Omaha and the Omaha business community. I also have a unique perspective that we're in at scale, the Hispanic media business. And then we also have these other 10 offices and all these other assets around rural Nebraska. And so I'm very, very thankful that I have that perspective, kind of understanding rural, understanding Hispanic, understanding kind of the city and the business environment. And so I think it's given our company an opportunity, because we're solving these problems, to be able to kind of think about things and look at things in a little bit different way. And also, if you're driving through any of these towns, I know exactly where you should be eating. I know the hotels that are the hotels is a loose word. I know the places where you stay that are the cleanest rooms and the best pillows. But there are some great places in Greater Nebraska. And so looking towards the future in our business, I talk a lot about how we're kind of over-serving rural and trying to serve these underserved audience. We call it localism. And so at our business, we don't get all that wrapped up in, is it radio, is it TV, is it online? We don't get all wrapped up in that, right? Our clients will decide what they need, and we'll try to fit that for them. But we think as long as we're local and we are super serving both the audience in those communities and the businesses in those communities, and we're fairly agnostic whether someone needs a new website or wants to buy radio, if we're set up to really do the right thing, we think we're going to be very successful. The digital business, however, has allowed us to get outside the boundaries of Nebraska, and we have clients all over the company, or all over the country. And so, I think that's about it. Anyway, thanks for letting me go on for a half hour about what we have. It's my story. It wasn't my place to tell you what to think or give some advice. That's my story. It's what I've learned along the way. I'm super proud of the business we have. I'm super proud of the life that I've built for myself, and And to be able to speak here in front of many of my friends and family and business colleagues and the community is one of the honors of my life. And so I want to thank you, anybody that's been part of my journey and helped me along the way. I sincerely thank you. We're going to do some questions in a second here too. But again, thank you guys very much for allowing me to be a speaker here today. And Alex and Jay and the Federation, thanks for doing this program and allowing me to share my story.